Hello, everybody. I'm Andy. Welcome to the studio. Today on the program, we're going to talk about drums. I'm going to demonstrate how I set up this kit, mic this kit, and make it sound like a good drum kit with a good drum player. I can't make it sound like there's a good drum player back there, but I can make the kit sound good, and so can you. So let's dive right in and talk about how we're going to do it. So as we see here, we do have a bit of a hodgepodge, a mix match of drum things, as often happens around some studios. So we've got all the basics covered, however. We've got our hat, our snare, two crashes, a ride, kick, tom, and tom. So what we will be doing to mic these up, we're going to have basically a kind of a junk mic on this drum for the kick, a 57 on the snare, a somewhat of a 58-ish something on this tom, and a CAD low endy type mic down here, and then these two Audio Technica mics for overheads. And through that and the use of a program called Trigger, we end up with a good sound for this kit. Okay, so here we are. We've got our mics are all set up. Let me run you through exactly what I've set up. Now, I will be using Slate Digital's Trigger program. I can't get that out of there, actually. Stuff is all in the way. That is an Audio Technica, kind of a copy of a mic. There's one around here. It's an M8000. It's good enough to get the signal out of that kick drum and into the system. And from there, Trigger will replace it and mix it with itself and come up with something better. Next in line, we have the snare, and we have a Shure SM57 on this snare. So if we needed to and wanted to, we could dial in a quality sound from this snare. I have that pointed. You'd probably want to get really specific about where you have that pointed and how you have it pointed if you were absolutely going to use this sound. I'm absolutely going to use this to trigger. So that's that. Hi-hat, we just have a little 58 guy on that. Most of the hi-hat ends up coming out of these overheads here, which are Audio Technica microphones. And this is a CAD bass responsive microphone. So I will be using Trigger to replace that, and then this here. Am I even pointing at the right things? That will use the real sound for that, and the overheads too, of course. All of these mics running into this PreSonus RML 32AI, and that's a stage box mixer more or less, but I use a Dante network here in my studio, so all of that goes into the wall via one network jack there and into my control room there, and we'll pick it up with the DAW stuff for setting these drums and getting them going. Let's have a listen real quick to what the kit sounds like in the room. So, good enough. It's your average kit. Let's roll this tape and let's see what happens. I use a laptop here, by the way, to control what's going on with my DAW in the control room. It's the beauty of Macintosh networking and screen sharing. Check it out if you don't know about it. Here we go. So let's look at what we ended up with and how our channels run through. So the overall sound goes about like this. And so here's your actual waveforms, and if you want to see what the plug-in chains look like on these channels, we can go like this. So we do have virtual tape machines on all of these channels. I should say that. I like that. It just kind of adds that something. There shouldn't be a lot going on in our mix rack. If there was, it was like, yeah, big rock kick, whatever basic preset was in here, because like I said, we're not really using that for the sound so much as we're using this right here. So if we solo, I can show you. Here's our kick. Here's what we actually recorded. Versus our final kick sound. So that's the kick. Snare goes about the same way. If you want to hear the snare and the sample that it turned into. Here's our original snare. And our sampled replaced snare. Sometimes I let some of the old one bleed through, it depends on what I'm doing. But basically that's kind of how oh, that's nice. Something's going on and goofy there, huh? Basically that's how the triggering stuff works. Kicking the snare is what's really important there. And really quick, there's a fast and easy, decent drum sound off of not, hodgepodge, hand-me-down drums from various people, and also a pretty good hodgepodge of microphones. And our end result comes out about like this. And everything's soloed about like this. Okay, so there you have it. We've got us a decent drum track in the bag, and we did it with this hodgepodge Frankenstein drum set that I got from, a couple different friends. Same thing with the mics. The mics are all over the map. None of them are really right, but get a decent pair of overheads like these Audio Technica ones for $100 or $150 or whatever they were, and something like Trigger from Slate and use a little bit of, technical know-how, and you can come up with a good sound without too much trouble. And this whole thing, I set up the drums, put up the mics, turned everything on, and did the track. That's all like 2-3 hours time today. So not much time and not a terrible amount of effort for a pretty decent drum sound. So have at it. If you have any questions or comments, put them down here. I'll get them. If you haven't subscribed, please do, and I'll catch you in the next one.